You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
If you prefer real mornings, shouldn't you have a real breakfast? At McDonald's, we get real about breakfast. That's why you can have a savory sausage biscuit with delicious hash browns for only $1.50. It's time to wake up breakfast. Single item at regular price. Prices and participation may vary. Cannot be combined with any other offer or combo meal.
Not to be a backseat driver, but can you say for sure you got the best monthly payment possible on your auto loan? Could it be that you might have gotten a better deal by shopping the loan at a few places and have a lower car payment? Next time, before you go car shopping, visit Communication Federal Credit Union first. Our auto loan experts will find you a perfect loan and get you the lowest monthly payment we can. Communication Federal, your auto loan experts. Restrictions apply. Federally insured by NCUA.
Ready to stand out, Army ROTC prepares you not only as a college student, but as a strong leader, allowing you to earn the rank of second lieutenant. You will be eligible for full tuition merit-based scholarships and develop leadership skills essential for your future. Start strong and enhance your college experience. Visit your campus Army ROTC representative today. To find out how you can earn up to a full tuition scholarship, visit goarmy.com/podcast to locate your closest ROTC program today. Army officers inspire, strengthen others. Paid for by the United States Army.
Hi, I'm Mike, founder of DollarShaveClub.com. What is DollarShaveClub.com? Well, for $1 a month, we send high-quality razors right to your door. Yeah, $1. Are the blades any good? No. Our blades are f***ing great. Each razor has stainless steel blades, an aloe vera lubricating strip, and a pivot head. It's so gentle a toddler could use it. And do you like spending $20 a month on brand name razors? 19 go to Roger Federer. I'm good at tennis. And do you think your razor needs a vibrating handle, a flashlight, a back scratcher, and 10 blades? Your handsome-ass grandfather had 1 blade and polio. Looking good, Pop-Up! Stop paying for shave tech you don't need. And stop forgetting to buy your blades every month. Alejandro and I are going to ship them right to you. We're not just selling razors, we're also making new jobs. Alejandro, what were you doing last month?
Not working.
What are you doing now?
Working.
I'm no Vanderbilt, but this train makes hay. So stop forgetting to buy your blades every month and start deciding where you're going to stack all those dollar bills I'm saving you. We are DollarShaveClub.com, and the party is on.
I know karate, I know jiu-jitsu, I drive like a gangster when I'm coming to see you, see you. See you, see you.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
The following program contains coarse language and adult themes. Listener discretion is advised.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Rick Robinson. I'm the executive producer for The Red Wine. The ladies of The Red Wine are bringing you part 2 of their interview with an Israeli citizen undergoing all of the craziness that's happening in that area now. So if you missed last week, make sure you catch up later. But again, this is part 2 of an ongoing interview segment. Again, I'm Rick Robinson, executive producer and programming director of KLR Radio, and you are listening to The Ladies of the Red Wine. Starting now.
That was a different war. I mean, it was we were sitting in shelters I was really a little kid, in shelters for 7 days, and the bombs and the airplanes and the air raids, and it was right next to my grandmother's house. This is where we live. This is where we sat in the shelters, and ever since we're in war. In '73 war, I was a soldier in the '81 first Lebanon war, and then there was another war in the '90s, and in the 2000s there was another war, and we've been so many rounds in missile attacks with Gaza. It's
So does
And there
anyone
wasn't
talk
a
politics?
Iraq-Iran war was when I was in college. So in Boston, in UMass, when we went to school, it was the Iraq war in Israel. They were launching huge missiles into Israel. This was the first time that Israel was hit by missiles, and at first we thought we were hitting by chemical or nuclear missiles. It was really scary. It was something, and we saw it. I saw it on the news on CNN, where my parents were in Israel. They had to wear chemical warfare masks. Every time there was a siren, they had to put on a mask on their face.
How does one carry on with life, carry on education, care for your children, fall in love, have a baby in the midst of this
Well,
atrocity?
life is stronger than everything. I mean, people who lived through the Holocaust. I mean, what can we say? I'm only happy that my dad, who was a Holocaust survivor, he was in a concentration camps in Europe, didn't live to see this day that we were attacked, and in such a brutal way, on October 7th.
We've become so radicalized. I remember when the internet first started, when you had to dial, and everyone said, this is going to be the information superhighway. And what I think happened is we were divided into these different factions, and people became more radicalized because they weren't exposed to any other type of ideology. And now it seems that people in general have become more radicalized. I don't know what it's like in Israel. I mean, do you talk about politics? Is it heated?
Politics is all we do. We fight over politics all the time here. I mean, we have our share of our own huge problems in the politics in Israel, revolving around the policies around the two-state solution or not two-state solution, and this is something that ever since I remember myself, it's in the mainstream of discussion. Always.
Israel, like you said, is the size of New Jersey.
Yeah, about, yeah. I mean, I can drive from the sea to the West Bank in about 15 minutes drive. I mean, I live in central Israel. It takes me about 5, maybe 10 minutes to get to the West Bank. So the first Arab village is about 5 minutes drive from me. I mean, that's very similar to the distance between the Gaza and the communities that were attacked on October 7th. This is about the same distance. So, I mean, something like this could happen here. I mean, we're so shaken now and so frail now, and we're not, I don't know. After this wasn't identified by our intelligence and by the military.
How did that happen? I mean, Israeli has some of the best intelligence, and I know that we share intel. What's the thoughts on the disconnect there with the
thought is that the intelligence was so wrapped up with fancy schmancy cyber information, and they left out some of the hands-on intelligence, and some of the worst thing is that they're in all of these border areas. There are what I'm not sure how to call it in English, but they're the watch surveillance soldiers that are watching the borders. Mostly are women. And basically, they were warning the higher intelligence officers weeks and months before the attack. They say something is wrong, something is going on, and they didn't take them seriously. And that goes back to very chauvinistic, way
I've
of
always
thinking.
said in the United States, and a friend of mine has concurred, that when moms like you and I, in the United States, Republican moms really start to be involved in politics, that the world would be a better place.
Oh, yeah.
When people who create life, and only women can create life, when they start to really lead, it's then that we may have some better solutions than men who, as you say, can sometimes be chauvinistic in those power play positions
and dismiss warnings. And it wasn't just the women's warning. It was there was another political issues that this weekend was a holiday weekend in Israel, and you have to divide the forces between the southern border, the West Bank border, because there's a lot of uprising in the West Bank all the time. There are attacks. Hamas is also strong there, and in the northern border. And actually, what I was talking about, the right wings, and they were provoking some of the West Bank people who live in the West Bank, and some of the forces were had to be moved from the southern border to the West Bank border. So there was a lack of forces, army forces.
Is that due to the holiday, you mean?
It's due to the holiday, and due to the fact that there was a provoking of the right wings people in the West
on
Bank.
purpose as a distraction.
To add to the friction there. And then you need military to protect them. And many of the forces were moved from the southern border to that border, to that region, and they were lacking force. And it was it's the worst.
So it seems like a tactical misdirection.
Tactical misdirection, and it was the worst. I don't even know how to call it. Disaster.
Who would be responsible for that abhorrent lack of accountability? Is that the IDF?
It's the IDF. It's the Secret Service. It's the government. It's everybody were trapped in some kind of a conception. For months and months they were feeding themselves that Hamas is not facing for a war, that he doesn't want to open a war, and then the border is safe there. And this conception was so deeply rooted in all of those, in the army and in the IDF, the Secret Service, all across the borders of leadership in Israel, and that's what happened. And this is something very similarly happened in the 73 war. We didn't get in too much into this war, but Israel was on the verge of annihilation in the 73 war when Syria and Egypt attacked Israel. We were surprised. It
reminds me of Pearl Harbor, where
actually, yes, it's very similar to Pearl Harbor.
Yeah, they said this place is too beautiful to be bombed. They can't fly this far. They're terrible pilots.
Yeah, exactly.
But they never accounted for the desire to conquer that these kamikaze pilots had, and they underestimated the enemy.
Yeah, that's true. It's been discussed. The Pearl Harbor was very much into comparison when people are attacking Israel for protecting itself. So then we say, well, the U.S. was attacked in Pearl Harbor. What 3,000 soldiers were killed there in Pearl Harbor. How did the United States reacted? She dropped 2 atomic bombs in Japan.
Exactly. And
what we're trying to do is we're trying to warn the population there. We're trying to avoid as much of innocent civilians. And again, innocent civilians. Don't forget that Hamas was chosen by 54% of the population in Gaza. Hamas, the violent, the democratically, I don't know how such an organization can be
You know,
democratic, but they were chosen by their own people for to rule Gaza. They didn't know. I mean, when the money started to come from Qatar and from the Emirates and from other Arab countries, and we're talking about tons and tons of billions and of dollars into this, and many of them took the money to themselves. I mean, the leadership of Hamas is living in Qatar, in the Emirates. They don't live in Gaza. They have billions in their bank accounts.
right, and they just call it
life.
in. They phone it in, phone in a bomb, phone in a slaughter, have their soldiers to do it. Well,
yeah, and they're sitting in the hotels and living in their yachts and living in the luxurious hotels and they're fat like you can see that they're fat like pigs. I don't know. It's
well,
like
we have a saying in the United States that pigs get fed and hogs get slaughtered.
yeah, exactly.
And religious wars. I don't know how anyone sees an end to that. And even if you said fine, take Gaza, that's not enough.
No, it's not the end. They say, the Palestinian charter is to destroy Israel. What do we have with Iran? Tell me why in the world do we bother Iran? Iran said that Israel should be destroyed. What did we do to Iran? What in the world did Israel did to Iran? What?
I think in religious wars, there doesn't have to be a reason.
It's a religious issue, and they want Israel to be wiped out.
Yeah, that's just it goes beyond, my. I've seen compared to what you've seen. We both have. We both were in the army, and everyone in Israel goes into the army.
Yeah.
Is that correct? Right after high school for 2 years?
Yes, 3 years, men for 3 years, and women for 2. Now it's going to be more, but yes.
So every citizen needs to know how to protect themselves because you're the size of New Jersey, and New York wants to kill you.
Yeah, but we don't have personal weapons. We don't have. I can't just go and buy a gun, for example. Even though I was in the military, there are very strict rules for personal weapons in Israel. I mean, if you were a soldier in some type of rank of training with the weapons, then yes. If you live in the West Bank, then you get some waivers and you can own a gun. But for example, I can't own a gun. Well,
So
I have
this slaughter that happened, no one could protect themselves. Right. So in this slaughter, no one could protect themselves at this music festival.
No, nobody, because nobody was there were some people who protect them. I mean, by law, every event like this has some armed, armed security there, but it wasn't enough. I mean, it's the music festival was hey. I mean, these were the atrocities that were done there. It was. I mean, the Hamas militants, it's like going to a Luna Park, with all the women. They just the rapes there. They were unbelievable, and they were also taking hostage bodies, not just living people. Many of them were wounded, were shot. They don't treat them in their when they're hostages. They don't really treat them very well.
How many people are still missing? Is there a count?
Now 138 people are missing, are still hostages, are kept hostages. We don't know how many are alive. We don't know how many are dead. The Red Cross, who's supposed to visit them by all of the Geneva amendments and everything, they don't. Hamas doesn't let them, and that's fine. I mean, with all the agreements that we had for freeing the hostages, one of the terms was that the Red Cross would go and visit them. As I said, some of them are wounded, some of them are amputated, some of them are sick. They are old people. People are 80, 85, 88. I mean, that needs their medicine. Some of them with chronic diseases. I mean, they're not treated. Red Cross was never there. Was never there. Red
Tell
Cross
me
is
about
another
the
hoax. Is another hoax like the UN. It's ridiculous.
well,
And
a
Red
lot of
Cross
these
was what? And Red
a lot of
Cross.
these humanitarian agencies are given, millions and billions of dollars. And we don't ever truly know where that money goes. I mean, look at all the money that we've given to Ukraine. Um, I think a lot of Americans here, their trust is eroding in their government if it wasn't already. And, we worry about these liberals that kind of, think everyone should sing Kumbaya and hold hands. And, much like Obama, if we are just nice to them, they won't nuke us, or, they'll be better to us if we're just nice to them. And I think you can't truly be a peaceful nation unless you have the ability for great violence and destruction.
Yeah, you need to a way to deter them. You need to a way that they will be afraid of you. Otherwise, they will not respect you. And this is what and that's the truth. I mean, you have to. I mean, I think Israel should be now the bully and the crazy bull now in Gaza and in this region, so nobody will touch us anymore. But the whole world is not. We can't just do what we want. We have a time limitation. I hope that we will be able to do whatever is needed, but time is running out. It's
What do you think this means for, like you said, like France and Germany in the United States, if we can't somehow put an end to Hamas in this terrible butchery and slaughter? What does it mean for Germany and France and the United States and China is involved and Iran is involved? And this isn't just about, Hamas in Israel. This has a global implications.
Yeah, it's it's back to the it's like what happened in the Ukraine. It's the NATO alliance versus the Warsaw Alliance. This is back to the Cold War days between the West and the East, and this is what is going to happen, and it also depends on the policies of immigration to Europe and the US and Canada. I mean, if you have Arab Americans calling for that they hate America and they're calling for annihilation or burning American flags or putting Palestinian flags on top of American flags. I mean, this is something. This is a red flag for the United States and for every European country to say that these people should be expelled from the United States. I mean, if somebody said that they don't think. I mean, there were so many interviews with the young people who said, "Well, I don't care for America." And they were asked, "Are you American?" Yeah, but I don't think. I mean, we should.
This makes me crazy because, I was a state trooper in Massachusetts for 25 years, and the Constitution means something to me. The flag means something to me. Even America, with all its faults, it's absolutely not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. But to live in your own country and say that you hate your country when they have no idea what Sharia law means.
Yeah, they don't
It means
understand what
that
it means.
they circumcise women's clitoris when
Yeah.
they're a certain age. There's no respect for women. Women have to cover their face. They can't show their arms. They are married to people much older than them. It's hell for women. And I don't understand, our own virtue in the United States has been fallen by these liberals. And Harvard still refuses to fire Dr. Gay, who is now accused of allegedly plagiarizing. And what do these colleges are? Does anyone from Israel send their child to go to Harvard or UPenn?
Yeah, unfortunately, yes, some do, and I don't know what's going to happen now. but I'm sure that it will still continue. But to be honest with you, I wish. I mean, now I'm afraid to go and take a plane and go away for a trip, for example, out of Israel. I don't feel comfortable.
I don't think I would either.
I
I mean,
don't. I
you
mean,
know, I've
it's
always
something
said,
that I never felt. You know, I was traveling many times in Muslim countries. Some of them were, some felt a little bit uncomfortable, a bit dangerous, but I wasn't afraid to travel in Europe or in the US or in other parts of the world. I was never afraid. Now I do, you know, I do. You know, I really want to go and travel to Scotland, for example. I know that Scotland embraces Palestinians and Hamas so much that I'm afraid to go there. I'm really afraid. It's something that because you know I mean I can pass for I don't know. I mean even if I speak English, I mean I have an accent. I'm not I still have an accent.
I forgot your, I mean, I don't remember your accent being so pronounced, but like I said, you know, we're talking 30 years ago.
Yeah, but then at the time I was speaking English all the time. Now I'm
Right.
speaking most of the time Hebrew, so my English is a little bit rusty.
Well,
So
it's still better than my Hebrew. But what I have a hard time gauging is I think I all of a sudden, I don't know, I just had this awakening that people don't appreciate the country that they live in. And, you know, we're being invaded as well. And, you know,
yes,
not at all comparing to what's going on, but they don't understand that you would never let a stranger into your home. And if a stranger stood outside your house and said, I, if I given a chance, I would light you on fire and dance over your dead face. These college kids or these college professors seem to want to put their arms around these people, and if they just, you know, give them a big hug, that everything will be all right. And to me, some of the purported smartest people are some of the dumbest, most ignorant people. You know, I totally have no respect for UPenn, for Harvard, for MIT. Hate speech.
yeah,
You know,
I
and what they said is it has to evolve into conduct. So okay, so when you actually murder someone, then you will take a stance. Harvard, who has, you know, $1 billion endowment, like what are I just don't understand what we're thinking when we're not paying attention. I mean, there's people who want to come to this country, who want to vote and participate. And what's the participation in Israel in your local government? How does that,
what do you mean the participation?
like the citizens, do they participate in the government? Are they free to speak out against the
Oh
government?
yeah. Oh yeah, we are still. This is what we're demonstrating because the last year there were attempts to change our judicial system. This is why we went out to the streets to demonstrate because we were in fear that very processes that were very similar to what happened in Poland and in Hungary are happening in Israel, and this is because of the right radicals that are taking over the government and the Netanyahu regime that is taking everything. He's doing everything to have their votes because they're the only one who vote for him, and the only one who can form. He can form coalition with those parties, the radical parties, and he cares about his trial and Israel is divided between the people who vote for Netanyahu and the people who don't vote for Netanyahu, and this is really a tear. You know,
It's so disappointing to me because I always looked at baby Netanyahu is an eloquent speaker
he is. He
and
still
a
is.
very picturesque speaker.
Yeah.
And a number of years ago, we had some IDF, retired IDF, and I don't know what you call the people who are masters of Krav Maga.
Yeah.
The masters of, there's a word for them.
We call them masters of Rav Maga.
Okay, all right. I wasn't sure if there was a particular word. And I went to a seminar when I was the station commander of South Boston. I went with another DEA agent and a few other police officers. And, my eyes were opened back then. I want to say maybe that was 2017. And they said that Netanyahu was corrupt. And I was just absolutely floored because, that's when I started to realize that, one face is to the public with politicians, and they can smile and tell you what you want to hear and say that they can make coalitions and they're willing to work with people. And then behind their back, they sell out their population. And these men were lucky to be alive, being in the IDF. And, they told us about explosions at a mall. In Israeli soldiers and people are very resilient because they don't allow them days off to mourn their dead soldiers. They clean it up, they bring in a whole crew, they rebuild the building,
Yeah.
and you move on. And you don't see that in the United States, that type of resilience.
But you don't get that many terrorist attacks as we do.
But we don't even see it with, now kids have to wear a helmet when they ride their bike, and they're all fat little kids, and they're at home on their video cameras, and, they don't like the flag, and they're not taught history. How do the Israelis form camaraderie with each other to be able to push back?
Well, actually, everybody were complaining about this generation, the TikTok generation that we're having here. And now this TikTok generation is fighting in Gaza, and you see that they're fierce fighters. And eventually, we all fear, maybe it's subconsciously, we all under a huge fear of the Holocaust. That we have to always be careful, be prepared, and be aware that somebody is out there to kill you. They don't like you just because you're a Jew. That's it. And whether you tell this to your kids and whether you don't tell this to your kids, it's in there. It's all the time in there. It's in the public discussion. It's even if you're a kid and you don't. You absorb it from everywhere around you, and it's there. I mean, it's not that we are. I don't think that Israeli teenagers are very different from American teenagers. They're not. They're different in the environment that they live, because you always have to be aware. I mean, you always have to look. You on your way. You have a Waze. In the GPS. I don't know if you use Waze or Google Maps.
Yes, we do.
So in Waze, you have. It's something which is very trivial, that you program your Waze not to take you into dangerous roads, because those roads are susceptible to terrorist attacks.
I can't even imagine. I mean, I can't.
So, but and you trust the Ways. It's one time it happened to me that I don't know how there was a huge traffic jam, and the Ways started to take me through the back roads, and suddenly I find myself in the West Bank, which is crazy. Which is crazy. I find myself driving. The only person on the road that is driving, and only military cars are there, vehicles are there. And I didn't understand how it happened with the Waze, because the Waze shouldn't allow me to get there. It should at least warn me, you're getting into such and such area, and it didn't. And it was something that it just shook me so, because it didn't warn me, and suddenly I found myself in this area. And but it's something that you're growing up in Israel, in Jerusalem. There are a lot of bombs in buses. And it burns into your to your brain, and you can't get away. I mean, it's there, and you pass it to your kids. What happens when subconsciously, and it's there.
Yeah. What if a door slams or someone drops something?
The door slams now because of the bombs and the intercepts and everything. Every door slam is just you jump. There's a thunder, I jump. There's a motorcycle, I jump. There's I don't know, even we hear the bombs, the intercepts from about 40 miles away. We hear them. It's very strong. I mean, the intercepts or the bombs that are or the missiles that are falling in the sea, which is about 5-10 minutes drive from my home. It's like shaking the whole apartment. With the glasses are shaking. Everything is shaking. It's you can't ignore it.
No.
You are shaking for a second, and then well, okay. I just got out. I went to the shelter. I came out. It's okay. And then we have those signs and warning on TV. Whenever there's a missile attack, then you have like I send you that there was a missile attack. I send you a
Yes.
snapshot of the TV screen, and you see, okay, and then you says 3, 4, then you know whether it's up north, it's south. When the whole screen just light up, you know that it's coming to the center. You just see that. You just know that. In the previous round of missile attack in 2014, I lived in a different apartment, and I had a balcony, and the view was all the way down to the south, so we could actually see the missiles coming way,
Wow.
way from the south.
Do you have pictures of that?
I didn't take pictures, but I do have pictures of an airplane landing with intercepts around it. I can send you maybe in
Oh, definitely send it to me.
the WhatsApp. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
send that to me. I would.
I
be
will
curious.
send you on WhatsApp those
So
images.
tell me, so from how long has this bombing been going on? And what I'm getting to, the question I'm getting to is, are you seeing a drug increase or a substance abuse increase in any people due to the stress of not being exposed to prior bombings?
To prior bombings? Everybody were exposed to prior bombings.
So everyone growing up, it would only be if someone, say, moved from another country to Israel and all of a sudden was exposed to this. Otherwise, I'm not saying you're desensitized, but you have acclimated to death and bombing. And I that's really hard for someone who's lived in the United States their whole life. In the sympathy that I have, I don't even know the words to say it, but when I found out that all this happened, I immediately thought of you. Tried to picture where you were at work. I knew that you were an engineer. I knew that you worked in the medical field, and I can't imagine someone being bombed. I just can't even fathom it. I would be petrified.
It's
I
hard
wouldn't
to
be able to
describe. It's really hard to describe, because sometimes it's when it first started in 2014, when it really started to hit central Israel from the south, okay? Then it was, in the beginning, it was, wow. And in the beginning of this October war, in the beginning, we knew that there were a lot of missile launch from the south, and then after a few days, we were kind of acclimated to that. But we were very afraid of what might happen from the north, because we didn't know whether Hezbollah will join the war right now, or they will stand still, or they'll start sending their heavy-duty missiles, because this is really something that I don't think anybody in central Israel experienced in a very, very long time. I mean, the last time there were heavy-duty missiles were in Iraq war, when they launched missiles towards Israel in the 90s, in the beginning of the 90s. And it's there, it's always there. We're acclimated, and I think that many people who are coming to Israel in the beginning, they're afraid. I mean, and they're acclimated too. I mean, it's the human nature to acclimate to wherever situation you're in. I mean, we cannot imagine. I mean, people in Israel cannot imagine what it's like to be in a hurricane, for example, or in a tornado. We said, how can they live in this country? I mean, this is crazy living in the U.S. I lived in Kansas. I lived in a couple of years in Kansas before I moved to, to the Boston area. and we were like in tornadoes like crazy. I didn't know what a tornado was, crying out loud. Never in my life in Israel there was a tornado. And the thunderstorms like you have in the US, and hurricane. Oh please, I mean in the East Coast. I mean I said, how can American live in such an environment that they know that in October or September this is the hurricane season, and how can they live in this? I mean, their houses can be completely destroyed, and it's the same thing. Like I say, how can you live in an environment like this? How can you live when you know that the hurricane can come and hit your house, or a tornado can come in and take your house, or you have a snowstorm and you can be buried, and I don't know what's going to happen in the. I mean, and the weather is getting worse and worse every year. I mean,
I think it's a different. It's a it's a natural occurrence. So I think
yeah,
people think
it's not done by people. Yeah, it's different.
Right. Well, I mean, now with all the farm fields of solar panels, I do wonder if we're contributing to some kind of climate issue because, as we know, hot air rises, and when you have these huge farms of solar panels, creating a thermodynamic, all that rises and goes into the atmosphere, and we know that when warm air hits cold air, that's when we get storms. So, I sometimes think are people born towards violence and we try to be good, or are people good and then they're corrupted? I just don't know how we stop this when people just want to kill other people. It reminds me of this police reform bill and the manipulation of people's perceptions that somehow the police are responsible for how a criminal responds, and that now the police have to take on the responsibility of the perpetrator's violence. We're blamed for the perpetrator's violence. To me, is being blamed for the violence of Hamas.
You're breaking out
in UPenn and MIT.
I don't. It's such an ignorance. It's such I think they find it very sexy and exotic, and to be on the side of the underdog, which is the Palestinians. In our case, it's never Israel. Israel is never the underdog, ever.
Well, Dr. Gay from Harvard, she's a black lesbian. Did she know what Hamas would do to her?
I don't think she realizes that. She doesn't realize what it means. She doesn't.
They were stuck on this. I think they didn't fully understand it, and it's their elite educational ignorance, where they say, well, they're trying to say, well, it's just talk. No, I say I call someone a name or a slur. And I don't even want to say it because people, if I use a racial slur for someone, they will tell me that that's hate speech. Or if I say, everything with the liberal left is hate speech, except actual hate speech.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine if you called for the genocide of all black lesbians.
Oh yeah,
that would be hate speech. She wouldn't be saying it depends upon the context in which you're going to kill them. So I really am at odds. And, this is when I learned, when I got into politics, this is when I learned that people, because they have a PhD or they make a certain amount of money, it doesn't mean that they have any more common sense or intelligence. I think sometimes very rich, educated people are just as ignorant as someone who lives in the ghetto. Their vocabulary is just better.
Unfortunately, it's true. We encountered it in Germany, for example, the country of culture and music, classical music, and those people suddenly were the brutal Nazis. I mean, you couldn't even imagine that those people who go to concerts and go to university and get their degrees and doctors and lawyers and judges, and suddenly they are Nazis. They are in the SS. They are killing Jews like not just Jews, but for our people, it was a genocide. I mean, at the time, we're now only 16 million people around the world, or only 16 million Jews around the world. So think that 6 million were killed by the Nazis in 1948, in the
It's just
40s.
it's so enormous. It's hard to imagine. I watched a documentary about some Jews that survived by hiding under dead bodies. And,
Yeah.
I found myself in tears. I said, this is just, it's just so much. And I contrast that with some rabbis here in the Cape that are, calling for the protection
You're
of
breaking on me.
Palestinians and have hatred towards Israel. And I'm just, sometimes I think we came from an engineering background, so I think we have very analytical, factual ways of looking at a problem, and I'm just dismayed that people can't see that calling for the genocide of a whole entire group of people is atrocious. And I wonder, what are we doing with our education? What are we doing to teach kids that this is not okay?
I don't know what to tell you, how to overcome this through education, maybe from example, your self-example for your kids. I mean, I don't know what the self-example this president of Harvard was receiving. It was growing up in her house. I mean, apparently she's open about herself being gay, and you expect some person like her, and to be open to other to other people, and to be liberal, and suddenly she adopts some very dark, a way of thinking and speech.
And to
hate
say
speech.
that, they are protecting people's free speech. Well, the First Amendment does protect free speech, and you can be an Archie Bunker bigot all you want, but the line is drawn when you have fighting words.
Yes.
Once you say, I want to kill all gay people, I mean, that's hate speech. That's
Yeah.
poor conduct. I think it's accepted by everybody, even people who are, hopefully bigots, know that that's something that you don't say in public. And to put blinders on and deny that, and for society to allow them to have a pass, is even more upsetting to me. That more people aren't, calling for her resignation, that there's not protests at the school, that, these presidents are removed and never allowed to be in polite society ever again.
That's true. I mean, I don't personally, I don't know how you control something like that. I mean, we are facing the same thing here in Israel. We're not saints, and as I said, we have a lot of internal tension between groups in Israel, and many groups of Israel who came from different places in the world. There is racism amongst us. But again, as you said, Hamas didn't look at us, whether we're people who came from Europe, or people who came from the Middle Eastern countries, or whether we're Arabs, or whether they just kill anybody that came in on their way that day. And this is the dangers. I mean, that at some point you don't distinct anymore whoever who's standing in front of you, and it's just killing everything and everybody who's in front of you. And this is the danger in these situations of hate speech. Very quickly it can turn into an actual conduct.
Right. I mean, someone threatening to kill you is a threatening behavior. It's actually it would be a charge.
It's a violent behavior. It's a violent language. It's a violent behavior. I mean, even if you say it as quiet as you want, but this is a violent speech.
Well, I don't think that I can really give enough of to learn enough about this. Like I told you before we spoke, when we started to record, that the history is first of all, the words are very hard for me, but not only that, but the history of the land, masses have changed. And I think we all think of these, or I do. I think of these countries as Syria, Jordan, as a country I would never want to go to. I had always wanted to go to Israel, and I remember you saying, maybe 20 years ago that it was safe.
It will be safe. In a few months it will be safe again.
Well, I mean, you're always
Even
welcome
safer.
to come
I
stay
think it
at
will
my
be
house.
safer. Well, it will be safer now. I think after this war, it will be safer.
Isn't that terrible to say, though? I think we'll be safe after this war.
Because we have to draw the lines and put a new realities into our region, and to draw different lines now, a different behavior on our part, but I do think it will be safer, honestly.
Do you believe that you're receiving the proper amount of aid, or military aid, or military intelligence from the United States?
I do believe that the United States really support us. I wouldn't know, because I don't know the numbers. As far as intelligence, I know that the collaborations are huge. I know that, I don't know if you're aware what's going on in the Red Sea, in the Arabian Peninsula, that the Yemens are attacking us as well.
I have some friends who are merchant marines, and a few who do anti-terrorist activities, and they've told me that it's not as widespread information it is here, but some of our ships have been threatened and attacked.
Yeah. And the United States actually has protected the missiles that coming from Yemen to Israel. They intercepted them. And the Yemens are trying to block the pathways in the sea to all of the commercial ships that goes to Israel, and that means that not only Israel, but Israel is the final target in the Red Sea. But that makes everything so very, very complicated, because the merchandise, the merchant sea ships will have to now go over around Africa.
Right. And so our ships that are trying to bring cargo in to support are being told by the companies, go ahead and push forward.
Yeah, it's being silent, but it's very dangerous. I mean, the U.S. has requested Israel not to attack Yemen yet, but Yemen is sending every couple of days.
I think we lost some audio there.
Do you hear me now?
No, you're very faint. I don't know. I can see you, but we've lost a little bit of audio.
Hear me now?
I can hear you now, yes.
Okay. I'm saying that where did you lose me? That the U.S. has requested Israel not to attack now, but those missiles are extremely heavy-duty missiles. These are missiles that are going about 1,000 miles away from Israel. They actually intercept outside of the atmosphere. These are Star Wars. These are actual Star Wars. What's going on between Israel and Yemen and the U.S. is in there. And it's for now, it's they're sending not just missile, but also aircraft. What do you call them? Those planes without pilots.
The drones.
The drones, but big ones with weaponry and bombs towards Israel, and they're sending like 10, 15 at a time, every time, and they're intercepted by Israeli, very sophisticated different missile. This is not Iron Dome. This is something else. This is, as I said, something more of the Star Wars games, but it's very dangerous. I mean, it's affecting the whole world, economy. It could affect all Europe economy because of what they're taking hostage. They already took today. There was an attack on a Norwegian ship that was on their way to Israel with the oil, and they attacked it.
And a lot of these ships are piloted by some of the merchant marines or some of the people who go to our maritime academies.
Yeah.
And and those ships have all different countries on those ships, and all different lives are in peril just to bring a cargo from point A to point B. They're not warships. They're
not warships. They're civilian with shipments, with merchandise, and they're attacking. What do we have to do with Yemen? What did we do to Yemen? But these Yemens are a branch of Iran. This is what I'm saying. They said Iran is operating Yemen. It's another, what you call like an octopus. So they're working with their octopus arms in Hezbollah.
It's a concerted effort.
Yes,
and
in Syria and in Yemen and in Gaza, all over the place. They're all over the place. Also in the West Bank. They're there too. I mean, it's not.
I would love for some of these queers from Palestine to go to Gaza for a few days.
Who will go to Gaza?
I would love some of these people who are holding signs, queers for Palestine.
Yeah, have fun there.
I would buy them a ticket to go visit. And
with the purple hair and then their dresses, men.
Every time I see a man in a dress or somebody with purple hair, I think that's one less person that has to compete with my children for a job. I mean, you have to try to have some humor about this, because it's just, especially for someone with an engineering background, it's so nonsensical, and it's, when you're trying to twist biology, we could go on about this, but I think when women really start to talk and talk to other women about what's going on and get them involved, women can be dogged in their persistence, I think, because we give life and we understand the sanctity of life, and those who can't give life wish they could give life, even men. So we would like to continue this talk with you if you're available, and it would be great if at some point, if you have the mind to at some point put something on film. I would like to give people an understanding of what it's like when a siren goes off and you have to take cover, and they're trying to tell Israel that they should have a ceasefire when they're not the ones doing the attacking. They were willing to give back Gaza, and Jordan didn't want, Egypt didn't want the land. So it's not about the land. It's about the annihilation of Jews everywhere in the world, not just Israel.
Yeah. And it's not just Jews. The start is with the Jews. The next step is the rest of the world. I mean, they say we start with the West, and then we continue. We start with the Jews, and we continue to the West. This is what they say. They say it out loud. They're not hiding it. I mean, and people don't want to listen to what they say. This is what they're saying. This is exactly what ISIS were saying when they started their vengeance and rage and trying to conquer the whole West. They were stopped at one point in 2014, thank God. But they were on their way to Europe. They were already in Europe.
Well, I believe that our educational system and some people in our government are complicit in allowing this, where they will not arrest people who protest and side with terrorists. So please keep us informed what's going on, and we'll stay in touch.
I'll send you some stuff.
Appreciate you coming on and talking to us. It's enlightening, And I just hope that we've given some people a reason to, maybe take a second look and do a little bit more homework and understand that Israeli Jews, American Jews, anybody that calls for the complete genocide of a population is a terrorist. And there's no going back from there. Do you want to give us any last words, Dalit?
Well, thank you. First of all, thank you for having me here and letting me spread some words and trying to make some sense of the complicated situation that is going on in our region. I know it's complicated, but I'll be happy to come and talk to you again, and I will send you some stuff as long as we're progressing here in this war, and we are trying to make some life, some routine life here.
Well, if you're always welcome here if you ever need a place to go. I know that doesn't, help the situation, but you always have a place here.
Thank you.
And, we pray for you. We pray for Israel. And
thank the United States for supporting Israel. I know that it's not, we can't take it for granted. And I know how much heat Biden, whether you like him or not, is taking over this. And it's very much appreciated here. It's truly, we feel that we are safe when we have some backing of the U.S. and some of the other countries as well. England and Germany are also supporting, not to the extent that the U.S. does, but then again, I'm saying it's not just the Israel versus the Palestinian war. It's a region. It's a global war. It's not a regional.
It is a global war. It is a global war, and God bless Israel and God bless America. And with that, thank you everybody for tuning in to KLRN Radio, The Red Wine, and thank you to our awesome producer, Rowdy Rick Robinson.
Thank you.
He'll be able to cut that. But thank you so much. This gives me